Welcome to the final assignment of Human Factors in AI. Today we will be discussing a problem that Good Lending Inc. is having. Based on their analysis, they are expecting a significant increase in mortgage loan applications in the coming year. So they're looking to capitalize on this opportunity but also they want to keep their operational costs low, their business risk low, and also minimize the processing time. Given that, the management is thinking of implementing an ML model that will help the underwriters in their loan approval decision making. Now let's move on to review what the current system looks like quickly. Primarily, mortgage application process is a lengthy process, really. You submit a form, and after submitting the form, you have to gather additional information that you attach to your form. So it's a longish process to get your application ready for review by the underwriters. Here's what the current system looks like. The end user uses our portal to complete all that information, and in doing so, they are providing us various information, their PII, which is name, age, address, SSN, income history, employment history, asset information, bank asset information, all sorts of information. And at some point, and this gets processed by the web server processes, programs that are already existing, and it gets saved into the firm's database and doc management system. This is how an end user submits their application, and at some point in time, when the web processes deem that all the information needed and all the documentation needed has been uploaded, then it notifies the end user that their application is now ready for being reviewed by the underwriting agent. What it also does is it informs the underwriting agent that they need to review this recently submitted application. So at a high level, this is what the current architecture is. Now, before we move on to look at the proposed system diagram, let's look at the task associated with the problem. First is the underwriter, first is the end consumer has to submit the loan application and the related documentation to make the application ready for review. And the second thing that the end consumer does is eventually they receive a loan decision. Now we have the underwriter analyst who will review the application based on the information provided by the end user, and then they will make a loan decision based on whatever their current complicated process is. So here's a brief task analysis of all these three tasks. So the end user is the one that is submitting the application via the web browser when they need to buy a home. And once they have submitted all the information required, then they wait for the loan decision from the bank. Once the application becomes ready for review, then the underwriter has to review the loan application. So the user for this task is underwriter. They review the loan application using their current tools, which is basically a whole bunch of disparate tools, including Excel spreadsheets, which have a lot of complex calculations about different rules, then email and ad hoc calculation tools. And what's the trigger for making this task? The trigger is when they get an email that an application is in a ready for review state. So that's their current flow. Once they approve or deny the loan application, the end user gets the loan decision via the portal. And the trigger for this action to happen is whenever the underwriting analyst has completed their loan processing and provided a decision to the system. So this is the task analysis. Now let's look at what are the insights we find. We find that the current loan analysis procedure is complicated, manual, time-consuming, and error-prone. So implementing an ML model to make a decision for simple loan applications meeting a certain criteria for, features that are within a range. For example, we could implement the ML model for simple applications where the income level is within a certain range, where the employment history is of a certain sort. So those rules can be written such that the flow of the loan applications automatically goes to the ML model instead of to the analyst. The more complicated loan applications which do not meet that criteria will flow into the manual process. Let's go back now and look at the proposed diagram. So here we see a new block that we have inserted for our ML data pipeline and ML model. This will get activated when the loan becomes ready for review and it meets a certain criteria. And if it doesn't meet that criteria, it will not go through the model. It'll go directly to the underwriter to process using their current processes. So let's go back to the user experience design for our AI solution. So for the end user, what are the tasks that are important? That is submitting the application and receiving the decision. So for that, we need to make sure that they know that we are going to be using an AI model if the loan applications meets a certain threshold. Additionally, we should provide them transparency on what features the models is going to be using in order to make those decisions. Then from a user experience perspective, they need to be provided with, when they receive the loan decision, they need to be provided with information on counterfactual information in case the loan is denied. Basically, let them know under what circumstances would they have received a positive response. On top of that, we would inform them that they have recourse should they not agree with the loan decisions. So beyond that, we need to let them know that their anonymized data will be used for retraining the model in the future. This information needs to be made available on our web portal interface that they are using to submit this information. This ensures visibility and clarity to them, and there's complete transparency of. So that's from the perspective of the end user. Now, from the perspective of the underwriter analyst, we need to make sure that the underwriter analyst understands how the model works, the new process workflow, and also how to interpret the model decisions and predictions about the risk levels. The feedback loop in our solution really is that the end user's data will be used for future training, and this information we would have communicated to them in the disclosures. Loan applications inherently include personal identifiable data such as name, date of birth, SSN, address, education history, employment history, rental history. This information is already being collected currently, even when there is no ML system involved. The disclosures regarding this are being provided and consented to explicitly during the application process by the end user. Now, these disclosures need to be enhanced with information about the new AI system, basically making sure that we let them know about the automated decision making and the features of the model. What are the ethical considerations? So the use of AI can cause allocative and representational harm. So in our case, there are potential sources of bias in our historical data related to gender, age, race, their zip code, the area that they live in or have lived in. So what we need to do in order to ensure fairness and accountability, we are going to build our AI model in such a way that it makes decision based on greater equity and less historical accuracy for the sources of bias. So for example, we are planning to strip discriminatory data out from the database. For example, not use gender and race from the training data. Additionally, we will also use AI models to spot and correct unequitable patterns of lending before actually training our model, meaning use AI models to detect this information in the historic data. So this will increase the probability of a more equitable outcome. In addition to that, the model will also be based on minimizing an unfairness score based on the gap between outcomes for people in different age brackets and with the same risk profile. So these are the ethical considerations and how we are planning to overcome some of them. With that, we come to the end of this assignment. Thank you for taking the time to review it.